When I need to impress someone with a gift, I go straight to 1-800-Flowers. There's a reason they've spent 50 years as the floral authority. Every stem is hand-selected by a vetted florist, and with same-day delivery nationwide, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. That's why millions go to 1-800-Flowers to celebrate life's most important moments. Order now for up to 40% off. Don't miss out on this limited-time offer. Act now and save up to 40% at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. Between 1942 and 1952, approximately 1.5 million American servicemen married foreign nationals while stationed overseas. Let that number sit for a moment. I'm talking 1.5 million marriages across Britain, Australia, France, Italy, Germany, Japan, as well as dozens of other countries where American forces were stationed, trained, fought, and eventually occupied. And when the war ended and those men came home, roughly 300,000 foreign women and a smaller number of men packed whatever they could carry, said goodbye to everyone and everything they had ever known, and followed them across an ocean to a country most had never seen. They were called war brides, and their story is one of the largest, most consequential, and least remembered human migrations of the 20th century. Our history brief today covers some recent history news. A quick word from our sponsors.
It never happens at a good time. The pipe bursts at midnight. The heater quits on the coldest night. Suddenly, you're overwhelmed. That's when HomeServe is here. For $4.99 a month, you're never alone. Just call their 24/7 hotline and a local pro is on the way. Trusted by millions, HomeServe delivers peace of mind when you need it most. For plans starting at just $4.99 a month, go to homeserve.com. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs.
This day in history. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany, officially entering World War I. The decision marked a turning point in the conflict, bringing fresh troops and resources that would help tip the balance in favor of the Allies. On April 6, 1896, the first modern Olympic Games opened in Athens, Greece, reviving an ancient tradition and launching a global sporting event that continues to unite nations to this day. Story of the day. The romances began almost as soon as American troops arrived overseas. In Britain, where American soldiers were stationed in enormous numbers from 1942 onward, the cultural collision was immediate and not always smooth. British men, many of them away at war themselves, were famously resentful. The Americans were, as the saying went at the time, overpaid, oversexed, and overhere. The Americans, for their part, found British women charming, resilient, and possessed of a matter-of-fact toughness that years of bombing and rationing had produced. Young people in wartime do not wait. They dance at the USO, they walk in the blackout, they fall in love with a speed that peacetime would never permit. Because in wartime, speed is, well, all you have. By the end of the war, somewhere between 70,000 and 100,000 British women had married American servicemen. They were the largest single group of war brides, but far from the only one. Australia contributed tens of thousands of war brides, many of them having met American servicemen during the Pacific Campaign, when Australia served as a major staging ground for the U.S. forces. France, Italy, and the other liberated countries of Western Europe added thousands more. Women who had lived through occupation, through hunger, through years of fear, and who had met American soldiers in the chaotic, emotionally charged weeks and months of liberation. And then there was, of course, the women of the former enemy nations. Japanese war brides, women who had married American occupation troops after 1945, faced a particular set of obstacles. The War Brides Act of 1945, which had been passed specifically to allow foreign spouses of American servicemen to enter the United States outside normal immigration quotas, explicitly excluded Asian women. It took a separate act of Congress in 1947 to extend those provisions to Japanese and Chinese war brides. Even then, they faced racial hostility in the United States that their European counterparts largely did not. Their story sits inside a larger war bride's story as a reminder that the scale of this migration was matched, in some cases, by the scale of the obstacles placed in its way. The War Brides Act itself was a product of considerable political pressure. When the war ended and American servicemen began returning home, they discovered that their foreign wives faced the full machinery of American immigration laws: quotas, waiting lists, processing delays that could stretch for months, if not years. Veterans organizations lobbied hard. Individual soldiers wrote letters to their congressmen. The image of an American hero home from the war, unable to bring his wife to join him, was not one that Congress found easy to defend publicly. President Truman signed the War Brides Act in December of 1945. It allowed the spouses and minor children of American servicemen to enter the United States as non quota immigrants, bypassing the normal restrictions entirely. It was, in practical terms, one of the most significant pieces of immigration legislation in American history, and it is almost never discussed as such. The journey itself deserves its own moment. Beginning in the early 1946, the U.S. military organized a massive transport operation to bring the war brides to America. Converted troop ships, vessels that had carried soldiers to war, now carried their wives toward a new life. The crossings were not comfortable, nor were the ships, which were crowded. The North Atlantic in winter is not gentle by any means. Women who had never been on a ship found themselves seasick, frightened, and beginning to absorb, perhaps for the first time, the full weight of what they had agreed to. Many brought almost nothing, perhaps a suitcase or a photograph, a wedding ring. Some spoke little or no English, and some were pregnant. Some had never traveled more than 30 miles from the village where they were born. On the docks in New York and Southampton and Sydney, there were tearful goodbyes from families who understood that in some cases, they might never see their daughters again. What awaited them in America was wildly varied. Some found exactly what they had hoped for: a loving husband, a stable home, a country that welcomed them. Others arrived to discover that the man they had married in wartime was considerably more complicated in peacetime. Some found themselves in rural communities where their accents made them objects of curiosity, and their customs set them apart. Some faced families who had never wanted a foreign daughter in law and made no effort to conceal it. The adjustment for almost all of them was harder than they had anticipated. A 1946 survey of British war brides found that the single most common complaint was not hostility or hardship, it was homesickness. A profound physical, relentless longing for that particular quality of English light, English tea, English voices, for the texture of a world that they had left behind and could not get back. The 300,000 war brides who came to America after World War II became, in time, Americans. They raised families, they built communities. Their children and grandchildren are woven into the fabric of the country in ways that are largely invisible today. Ordinary Americans whose existence traces back to a dance at a wartime USO, a walk in a blacked out English street, a moment when two young people in the middle of the World War looked at each other and decided that whatever came next, they wanted to face it together. The History Brief. Today on History News, we're headed to Toledo Museum of Art, where a new exhibition is revealing something surprising about the ancient world. Magic wasn't just superstition, it was a serious, everyday tool for survival. The exhibition titled Cursed, The Power of Magic in the Ancient World, brings together artifacts from civilizations like Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome, dating from roughly 2000 BCE to 300 CE. Visitors walk through a dimly lit gallery filled with ancient amulets, figurines, spellbooks, and inscribed gems, objects once believed to hold real power. But this isn't about stage tricks or illusions. According to the exhibition's curator, Jeffrey Spear, magic in antiquity was a deeply held belief system. People turned to it as a way to cope with a dangerous and unpredictable world, seeking protection, healing, love, and even victory over rivals. For example, one artifact on display is an amulet of the demon Pazazu, worn to protect against another demon believed to harm mothers and infants. In a world without modern medicine, objects like this offered a sense of control over illness and death. Other items are more unsettling. The exhibition includes so called curse tablets, inscribed messages asking the gods to punish enemies. These weren't symbolic gestures. In ancient societies, people used them in legal disputes, personal rivalries, and even romantic conflicts. Magic, in other words, was woven directly into daily life. And the meaning of magic wasn't the same everywhere. In places like Egypt and Mesopotamia, magic and religion were deeply intertwined, part of official belief systems. But in Greece and Rome, magic was often viewed with suspicion, associated with outsiders or marginalized groups. The exhibition also shows how these traditions evolved and spread. After the conquests of Alexander the Great, cultures blended across vast regions, mixing Egyptian, Persian, Greek, and Jewish practices into new forms of magic, creating a kind of ancient cultural exchange. But perhaps the most important takeaway is this: magic wasn't irrational, it was human. As Spear explains, people turned to magic as a way to act, to feel some agency in the face of forces they couldn't control. And in that sense, the impulse hasn't disappeared. Whether it's an ancient amulet or a modern ritual, the desire is the same: to make sense of uncertainty and to feel just a little more in control of the world around us. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you are enjoying this show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad free. Both links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. I also hope you guys check out our new YouTube channel where we have some exclusive series that are not part of this podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.